and actually there are some errors according to the taxonomy, which they have to discover by now, identify and correct. And I will show you this. This is how it actually looks. I have made a screenshot from the plugin. See the two options that you generate the XBRL file and localize errors. And right now I will give you the demonstration. This is a file that I have filled in with a few data. You can see that it's quite familiar to you. So when I generate, or actually the reporting institution generates, you go up here and you generate. You have to give it a name. So I can give it Loops 1. For an example, it's not a name that you will probably do, but I will do it just to make sure that you use the same files. And you say. Then you're asked to fill in away. Okay. I put in the data. This is the information of the reporting institution. 9-digit organization number. And here you have the period. We are reporting for the third quarter of 2010, so this is the date. And I push OK. What's happening right now is that the plugin goes first to the context file, where all the taxonomies are defined, all the concept of the context is defined. Goes to the mapping file. sees where in the XIII template do you find exactly this concept, and then goes to the cell, writes what is written in the cell, goes to the next concept. It goes through all the cells in the workbook. Afterwards, it takes the validation rules and it controls all the generated XBRL file against the taxonomy, against the business rules. Actually. So when this one comes to an end, then we will see that there are two errors in this workbook. We have written here the name of the rule, description, and where you can find it in the Excel template. So if I'm a reporter, I have to correct before I submit. Thank you. Before I submit, I have to correct. Of course. And here I have identified the errors. So you can load the file, or you can just go here. And as you know, what happened is that the reporting institution had forgot to put in some numbers. You see the red cell disappears because we have validation in the Excel template. Now the reporter is satisfied. will generate another one. I can just call it Lex2, just to make the difference. You want to save the changes, of course. Remember that this was the report I tried to generate this morning, so I and of course with all this validation, then we will have some better data quality after we have introduced this way of reporting. Submitter they have almost no errors according to formal errors anymore, because they will see it. And if they try to send an email saying that this file that you try to submit has these errors, please submit it. So the process is the same as I showed you a few minutes ago. And if the reporting institution has corrected the errors in the right way, it should have the message that there are no business rules errors and it is not submitted. And this is the message. No errors according to business rules. So I just OK, and I go on with the presentation a few minutes before sending in through the portal. This is how the portal looks like. It's this is how it could look inside the portal. Now I will shortly show you what to send in. Before I send in, I will only show you that we also have an error handling routine. You get some errors looking like this. Now I will show you in practice. When a reporter log in, we can choose if you want to have English or Norwegian, and since I'm here today, I'm choosing English. Reporter, of course, will have all in Norwegian. So if I want to submit the file I just generated, I have to choose the right file to send in. The one I generated was looks 2. This one. Before I send in, it's a good practice to test. So I just test it because you never know if everything is okay. The only difference is that when you test it, all the errors remains at the reporting institution. If you submit, you will see all the errors. So suggest that our reporting institutions they test before you can send it. So now it's processing the EIS. And in a few minutes there should be a few moments there should be a result. And this the validation is against taxonomy, not the business rules. Here we see the validation failed. Reporting institution should be surprised, but actually I'm not, because made an error in the net. And here is how the error looks like. It can scare some reporters, but actually we have
way of identifying actually where is the area. Because everything you report, you find uniquely by concept and context. So what you can do, you make a copy of the concept. Then you go back into the plugin to Excel, and you choose localize errors. You can just paste. Back again, and take also the context. For some of you have already maybe read what might be there, but let's do it this way. Here we have defined uniquely one cell. So let's go to the cell and see what there is. Actually here you have something that the taxonomy and the template demands a negative number, but the reporting institution has tried to put in a positive number. So what I can do, I can just make it negative. Of course, throughout the errors will just automatically be corrected. If I generate, the process will be just the same. So instead of doing that, maybe I just use the file that I generated the other day. So you can you can also submit. Hopefully everything will be accepted, and reporting institution has done for this time for the quarter of 2007. After we have introduced this solution, more or less the errors that we used to have, they have more or less disappeared. So we're quite happy with the improvement in the data quality. Yeah, got the receipt. So validation successful. Instance document was accepted. So the reporting institution is happy. You can just log off and starting preparing for the next quarter. This is what I just showed you, the error handling routine. We have a web page that we have with the link to plot with the guidelines, the templates, necessary software. As a conclusion, we say that we have given this possibility to the reporting institution with the minimum burden, because the core Excel templates they use are the one that they have used since 2008. A lot of the reporting institution, they have the way of filling the templates. They use some kind of Make pros or other system to fill the spreadsheet. So it saves time and resources for both the reporting institution and the sponsor by enforcing validation before and during the submission. For the supervisor, we have the better quality of the data, and of course a flexible standard that allows for further analysis and utilization. and now we have the possibility to exchange the data with others.
But it was a
challenging project. Complex taxonomy. At the time we had to do nature software and limited skills resources. So we had to build the way doing it.
But we learned a lot.
In the way.
So the future work. Well, they're coming new
forward versions. We have 2, 3.
Develop
solutions for our XBRL data analysis and visualization.
Of course, we encourage
the institution to implement XBRL.
And
possibly
might be an
idea to develop
web services
to 13 institutions and submit files directly from their system.
And we're talking
about the future.
So
any questions, comments?
The question was
if we provide the banks with software.
We have the plugin
that is on our website.
And all the banks, all the
reporting institutions,
they
don't log in and install their computers.
So they have the template files and generate an XBRL file in-house and submit the files. So
yes, they have the plugin. They have the plugin and we have it.
Right now
we have it for
Excel
2003 and 2007. We also had a beta version since 2005.
Actually, the only time when they might need some support by the installation. Because you have a lot of different environments out there. People, banks or reporting institutions, they have different infrastructure in their institution. So sometimes they have to ask, but usually they have the IT department in the bank that knows their system better. So actually that is maybe the first place to ask. But I have had some questions sometimes. Hopefully installed. Usually we solve it through the telephone. Other questions? Thank you.
Next speaker is Sebastian Strauss from the
Okay. The question was if we
developed the software in-house.
It was actually our vendor, Cyber Norway that developed for us. Yeah, the photo and XBRL, that's true. The plugin is Cyber.
Okay. Hello. I will jump around a little bit so it's more interactive. It's early in the morning. Do I need to swap outside? Oh, okay. I cannot jump forward. Okay, so
my name is Sebastian Klaas. I'm from Germany. I'm from the company Init, and we are contractor to DG Informatics. This is computer science ministry of the European Commission. They deal about tester nets, all these hardware measures, and they also have a focus on something called semantic interoperability. And I will try to explain you how we see the world. What is this service from the European Commission, and if we have time, I will explain you what is the core person, but we will see. Okay.
So let's start.
SEMIC, as all the European Services and Projects, is an acronym for Semantic Interoperability Center Europe. It's threefold. It has an open platform as If you want the online tool, you can reach www.semic.eu. But it's also only a repository, so a register of metadata of we call it assets. So I know in your domain assets is completely different, something completely different. But we chose this term so just to clarify semantic interoperability assets. For us, this is specification, taxonomy, scope, everything that leads up to data exchange in the semantic way. So this is an asset, and we have a repository featuring all these solutions of Europe, and of course SEMIC also was built as a service center. So the initial idea of setting a source forge out there and not caring about the users, we changed this idea in saying, let's say 10% is hardware and database, but we also have to have people that go around Europe, that go in workshops like this, domain-specific working groups that listen and that he wants to spread the word of best practices. So yesterday, as I mentioned, I'm not from the finance domain, probably the only one. So I concentrated on listening to you and abstracting your methodology, the technology you use. I saw that by there are excellent solutions, that you have a lot of problems in common with other domains. So let's see what others do. So this is just how XIII program of informatics published something called the European Interoperability Framework, and they divide the world. You want in terms of interoperability into 4 layers: technical, on the ground; semantical, syntactical, something like organizational interoperability; and legal interoperability. And I like this idea because it's easier to explain that SEMIC is focused on the semantic issue. We do not care for technical issues like IP4, IP6 to choose, SQL, or technical stuff if you want. And we do not care for organizational matters, as this is too complicated. So all the agreements, or the legal agreements between 2 member states of the European Commission. If you want everything about meaning, how to put meaning into data files, how to make data exchange, let's say, from Italy to France, to ensure that they understand that cash flow means cash flow and insolvency is the same concept behind. So this is the main occupation of SEMIC. Okay, I will not bother you. Just it's a bit of advertising, but to show you the dimension. So for 3 years now, the European Commission established this service. Our focus, as I said, is Europe and e-government, but of course we also touch some points where industry sends data towards government, and we have now 1,200 users, 500 solutions, including CoRep and FinRep, but also other standards and specifications. And we divide the world into, it's called artifacts. So, perhaps now I can stand up.
So for us, we say assets might be of a different type, and according to this type, you can use different tools. So what we see a lot of are traditional XML schema files, schema definitions. Here, for instance, DG environment, we have something called register for pollution, where you have all these member states are reporting their CO2 data, and it's a little bit like as you are doing, federating data from member states, reporting to a central European authority, as far as I understood. We have code lists, a very easy solution or very handy solution. So this is name value lists, like saying, the ISO country code list, where you have a code and the name of all countries. So this actually eases up data exchange, as you can more easily agree on such a simple list than agreeing on deep ontologies or taxonomies or advanced vocabularies. So, okay, there are some partner projects. We are also used for coaching. So if you have a question, or you can ask us, often we are used to know whether something is out there. So EU government projects ask us, do you have a list of exonyms, like how is Munich written in other European countries, or did ever someone define what is a car in XML? And so often we are not experts in the domains. We use this as a horizontal measure, if you want. So we specialize on interoperability, but we know the experts. So we will try to make content networking, and of course all for free as the European Commission. So, okay, what is the relationship to XBRL? So Ignacio once participated in a workshop. It was about reusing the SEMIC technology. It's actually at the moment an EBXML repository. And FINREP CoRep was uploaded, and our clearing manager, as it's called, made an asset assessment report. So he studied from a technical point of view, without knowing anything about finance domain, CoRep and FINREP. So it was so we gave some comments concerning technology, or so you can see this on SEMIC EU and probably also on Eurofine. Okay. Perhaps I got to know that you have different implementations of CoRep, FINREP in all these member states. If you do not have a repository yet where you store all these solutions, perhaps SEMIC could be a place, but this depends your organization. Okay, another way of seeing the world I want to present you here. This is after 3 years of traveling around to the e-government projects. We decided it's good to have this view of the European interoperability framework, but it's even better to have something like level of interoperability, not layer. So saying something about maturity, and we try to compare which EU agency has which degree of maturity of when working with the semantic area. But this is kind of heavy stuff. But this is what we found out. A lot of use cases only focus to identification. For instance, there is the insolvency register of the e-justice portal project, and they only try to identify whether this company X is insolvent or not. So once you get a response from this Federation of National Registers and the company is not in the register, this will mean that the company is not insolvent. So there's a big issue on data quality, on trust, on importance to identify, to make this, to overcome the multilingual burden. How is Siemens, for instance, GmbH, SIL, what is it spelled like in other companies, was it a director, what's the concept of the director, and so on. So you know, insolvency is it's not semantically equally defined in all the member states. So here we only can speak about identification. I saw that this company is not in the insolvency register of Norway, let's say. So then the second level is a little bit more advanced information. So this is when two communication partners agreed on a common message format. So at the moment, I guess that you are doing this stuff. Let's see. Integration, yeah, we said everybody that can read from another country, from another register, without touching the real data. So if you want an interaction, read and write. So if you want in database terms, this is just an excerpt of the data, full read and write. And this is very rare, especially across borders. So you can imagine that Great Britain does not like France writing into their register. So this is mostly we saw this in one country across between different administrative levels, like the city of Torino writing into the state of, and so on. So, okay, just for this concept, 4 E's: identification, information, integration, and the more difficult and advanced interaction. And to tell you that it's helpful if once you create a data exchange standard, I know now you started a lot of years ago, but just if you have in mind creating a new standard, it's always helpful to concentrate, make clear what do I want to achieve, what is the business case, keep the simplest one, only try to eliminate all the extra, all the things you always wanted to be made. Just concentrate and identify what is your case. Okay, some more sophisticated slides. So now let me tell you about experience from other sectors. So yesterday I heard a lot of things like URL versioning and so on. So you will see probably your issues you're dealing for the last years also here. So we have some focus domains in CEMIC. So people that are often involved in data exchange. This is many cases it's from justice and police domain. So Europol, Eurojust, also agriculture, the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization. You can imagine that they also have lots of issues on semantic interoperability, that they have 5 official languages, thousands of entries in the thesaurus, and yeah, environment has a lot of cross-border issues, of course. If you transport waste from one country to another one, you need a taxonomy to declare what is this waste. Is it renewable energy? Is it an old battery? Or so you can imagine that you have a little bit the same problems. Okay. So one of the top questions always is, yeah, how can I overcome this granularity? One country has, let's say, name, last name, family name, name of birth, academic title, and another country only has a full string for the whole name without making differences. And this is a question often. Okay, it's easy to concatenate a fine granular name into one string, but it's harder to take one string and to extract 5 different semantic informations out of it. So this is one question, key question, how to deal with this granularity. A lot of projects do mapping and accept the loss of information when going to a higher granularity. Okay, maintenance processes. Of course, if you have such a code list like a country code list, or you need a process behind what to do if another country will arise, or if name changes. We have a lot of issues about how can I deal releasing new versions. You must have the same problem with CoRep, FinRep, how much time to give to vendors to adapt the software, when to announce, what is the bug, what is a feature. all these questions of maintenance. Also an issue, especially with linked open data and the idea of having one URL per concept is consistent with URIs. I think you must have the same when you are changing the name from CBS to something else, and you coded for 10 years namespaces with CBS, or I don't know. So these are questions like, how can I create a namespace? Shall I put something behind? What is the dot? Whether or not to insert the date. And just to tell you, so for the German interoperability concepts, they have both. They have a namespace using, like on W3C sites, you can say latest version of the standard, and there's something behind giving you the latest version. So you have a generic URI and you have access via date. So you can have both, but it depends on the use case. Yeah. Naming design rules, an issue very often discussed. What can I impose to the programmer? May I tell him to use uppercase, camel case, how to rename files and so on. Especially in large projects like yours, dealing with a lot of countries, one of the best practices is to fix at the beginning how will we call it, where will be the version information, the file name, and so on. Okay, and of course, especially in Europe, multilingualism, pluralism, heterogeneity. So we saw a lot of projects that tried to make something top-down to say, hello, this is the new standard, please adapt. And one of the lessons learned was that you cannot force, of course, legacy systems, member states that invested 2 or 3 million in registers to change from one day to another. So in Europe, in politics, as in computer science, you have to talk about harmonization and not standardization. So this was one of our experiences, not to go there, standardizing, change your system, take this one, but to take into account already made investments. And this is why mapping is so important. So leaving the original system as it is and try to create something in the middle. So, okay, another one. Also yesterday, concepts that sounds like, but that are different, or different names for the same concept sets, synonyms, hyperonyms, especially an issue for taxonomies. What do I do if, I think there are animals that are both mammals and birds, or the bird is not that taxonomic, so you sometimes have an entry that would fit into more than one level. So working on these taxonomies, you will often find this. Then there's around Europe a difference in what solution to take. Some projects like the idea of having one big ontology explaining everything using reference engine and palette reasoner and making all these graphs, and there are other projects that say, I don't like ontologies, I've never seen one really working. At the end it's all in a database, and just let's take name value pairs. So just to tell you, there's both outside some more, let's say, academic ontology work and some really practical, just let's take one name, one value, and the user will see that bank account is the label for that number. So different approaches. Feasibility of mappings, of course. I already said a lot of projects have to live with a loss of information. And yeah, also a key question when starting to define a new standard, where can we put information about structure, where's the content, how to separate. So yesterday I heard your problem with visualizing, where can I get the information of where to display this and this information from the taxonomy. And also in other domains, you have, let's say, XSD file, there's defined this data item, there's annotation, but it's not easy to write into formatting informations into the definition of a semantic definition. So, and also, of course, it's better to have the separation of concerns to divide content from presentation. But it's also, I understand the will to have one source of information and having everything inside. So there's no easy answer to this question. Modularization, a big issue. How can you encapsulate different functionalities? So if you would try to take CoRep, FinRep, and make, perhaps it's already like this, but to divide into 20 autonomous modules, I can imagine this would be a hard task. But this often comes into play with reuse. So if you have something you want to reuse an existing solution, it's better that it's already tailored, modularized, and programmers know how boring it is if you want to use a little code snippet and you have to include 50, 30 XSD files just to use the small library. So modularization of these semantic interoperability specifications is also quite important. Okay, other issues, I already mentioned separation of concerns. Some large organizations like FAO or Publications Office with Eurovoc, or I think also the Ministry of Interior of Spain, they started early with implementing solutions with DTD, as there was nothing else. Then they migrated to XSD technology, XML technology. Now they are doing SCOS, so Simple Knowledge Organization files, and they are a little bit, what can I say, they do not like migrating all 10 years to another technology. So they said, we like projects, we like new projects, but we don't like to do the same stuff all 10 years with millions of data. So this is a big issue, migration, converting the structure without having a lot of new functionality. Okay, so we can say DTD, okay, it was a beginning. XSD is already more structured, but there are some lack of semantics, how to put semantic information to XSD. SCOS is very semantic, you know, with the concept narrow, broader, and so on. But yeah, what will be next? So we have this question of some people who, like you, define domain-specific data exchange files like Inspire, or so they say, let's create a new data format that's got like this. And I have to say that there is something out there quite generic, what is called a resource description framework, RDF fleet open data. So this is just something I want to say, that sometimes you have the choice of using a standard and making your own layer on top, using your own vocabulary, but basing on let's say a de facto standard from WH3C, or you say, let's take XML and the rest we define in our way. So this is a decision you can make. Of course, the project running so long time in so many countries, it might not be a good idea now changing the whole CoRep into linked open data, creating financial vocabularies behind, and so on. But someone starting now should ask this question: how much can I reuse from existing technology? Okay, quality, credibility of data. As I said, with the insolvency register or others, this is a big issue. Yeah, you can have data exchange, the meaning can be okay, so everybody agreed on what is electronic waste, but then you can have a difference of credibility in the data depending the country or even the company that reported. So often you need a value also that talks about credibility, so that you can say, I got a value, but it's credible for 50%, because we don't know, but the member state told us, please don't take for sure our data. So you need a quality indicator. This can differ from field to field, as you can imagine. Okay, complexity of legal interoperability. This, I think this was also from the insolvency register. Let's say Italian police, Italian wants to look into the insolvency register of the Netherlands. Even if technical interoperability is okay, semantic interoperability is okay, You have to care for bilingual agreements. Is Italy allowed to have a look in the legal stuff in the register? What if data protection issues? We Germans, we like it very much. We care a lot for the protection of data. Also, some other member states have this spirit in mind. So there might be also, when the data exchange is working, there might be that you have to care about, is this country allowed to see this data, yes or no, in terms of data protection. Okay. Okay, last slide. Visualization issues. Not only linked open data flying in the cloud, the simple XSD, you have this problem once it becomes too large, too big. You have to care for visualization also. You just mentioned that they, with ECOG 4, are creating for 27 countries, 2,000 data items to have a data dictionary. As you mentioned yesterday, that this would be a good idea, FinWeb Core Common Dictionary. Just to tell you that Eurojust is doing this with Excel, and they told us they need this tool that is better than Excel. So they have other requirements. So they have requirements that cannot be fulfilled by Microsoft Excel, like shared collaboration, working together with 5 people on the same Excel sheet, and so on. So you know the limits and possibilities. Okay, other big issues, I could talk for hours, but just to show you, there's the idea of federating repositories. So federating these databases that have semantic classifications inside. So let's say that Finland does not have to upload its specifications to the European database, but that with using SEMIC you can make federated queries into other registers without learning the language of the country. So a basic idea. This is where we need something like this. This is as a description metadata format. So a large description, what is an asset in our terms. It has a name, it has a license. Am I allowed to use it? It is from a different domain. A big issue, of course, for projects that are on the transaction layer level. Once you have this whole interaction, sending, writing, you will need test data. As the software vendors, the software companies cannot always recreate the whole infrastructure, let's say, of a court or of a communication system of the ministry. So often they need test suites and test beds where they can simulate situations. Like what would the message be if sent in this and this condition, and so on. A lot of other issues, but these are the ones that you can find in any other domain. So thank you for your attention.
You have seen that we are using XIII templates. So you see we are handling Excel templates, and the regulations are in Word or PDF, or so these are technologies of the 80s. And technician like me would dream of having ontologies for regulation, for new European directives, for example, and to have regulation in XML with technologies like DITA and ARDFA to get semantic information and to be able to provide links from the information to the regulation and so on. So are you responsible for that in the future, or so could you answer to that? Okay.
So yeah, thank you for the question. So we will not create software as SEMIC EU. Of course, this, let's say this is not the task of the European Commission in this phase, if you want, but there are projects out there that are evaluating. It's called a SEAL, Semantic Evaluation at Large Scale. They do investigate about taxonomy editors, ontology editors, what is the difference. So the question of tool support, what tool to use with which artifact, is answered by some FP7 projects. One of them is called CS. Yeah, and to tell you that ontology, my personal opinion is more, as I'm a computer scientist, it sounds good. Might be a nice word for tenders, but I'm also on the side of those saying that at the very end, if you have 1 million entries in such ontology and you have a real-time application, at the end you will always put this ontology in a relational database to make fast queries and to yeah, this is what I saw, and as I mentioned at the beginning, to overcome the semantic interoperability burdens, often it's easier to take a simple solution like agreeing on code lists as you do, agreeing on values. There you can make large steps, and putting everything into ontology and so on, this is the last 20% if you want. Okay, so. Other questions?
So this is Ignacio. Also, I have two questions. It's related with the link between the semantic operability in the semil.eu and the open source repository also.eu. And other question that is has some importance. What about potential fundraising from the European Commission for this kind of European projects? Because any member state feels that they are for the local incumbency to funding pan-European projects, and probably the European Commission have a lot of requests. Thank you.
So this is a kind of a tricky question, as I'm a contractor and not a project officer. So I can tell you what you can see in the internet if you look for ISA program, Interoperability Solutions for European Public Administration. It's written that their task, their objective is to help member states implementing European directives, to give advice and so on, as they do with CEMIC EU. They also created OSOR on the same program and ePractice, another portal. And yeah, I cannot say what to do and how to do, but obviously as Digit gives help for the testnet infrastructure, they also give help to member states, to regions, to cities. But please ask the project officer, Aldo Laudi, for these questions, how to deal with fundraising. So the link with OSOR, that's in the same program, but OSOR concentrates on open software. So I also like this idea, saying once the European Commission paid money to have companies developing software, why not putting it open source? So this is the place for software, like SourceForge, you know. It's also a repository for software, and CEMIC EU, to make the difference, we care for specifications, PDF, XSD, and so on, not software around. And you have other intellectual property issues with this XML stuff. So let's say OSOR is focused on software and CEMIC on semantics. Yeah.
Is there any other questions?
So no other questions so far? Thank you.
Okay, so this presentation is made by Catherine Smell, the but in the background is Emil Bartolé and Ignacio Boiso helping Catherine. What we are doing for best practices basically in the topic of semantics, how to define our semantics, the way we are working. Please, Catherine.
Hello, good morning. My name is Catherine Schmidt. I'm working for the Deutsche Bundesbank, the IT department responsible for creating the software for the banking supervision department. I'm starting this presentation, but I will give the floor open also afterwards for the header information that we are going to create. So this deals with, in general, best practices. As you can see, a lot of countries have followed our harmonized vision, and they have already established XBRL for these three taxonomies, core, framework, and ESI-MIR for the statistical reporting to the ECB. But we have a bit of a problem, because what we expected with having a common frameworks on basis of these frameworks is a more or less harmonized reporting in Europe. What we realized that we have custom reports that differ extremely from each other. So the reporting from Spain is heavily separated from the reporting in Germany. And this is why just more or less tables are changed. And also the IT part is very different from each other. This is why we produce some best practices. They are already mentioned in a consultation paper of Greenville that we are going to prepare best practices on precision, percentages, thresholds, margins, identification of the reporting entity, and so on. We already worked on this, and these are the following chapters also dealing with all the open issues that should be covered in a European harmonized way. And this is our responsibility. So precision will no longer be defined by the banking supervisors. They are going to be defined and prepared by us as a European working group. For example, in the European core tables, the precision will no longer be defined for the streamlined tables. And this is where you can find our proposals for best practices. It's on our wiki page, and these are the topics that we deal with the precision, percentages, how to define units, currencies, thresholds, nil, null, zero. I'm going to get into some of these in more detail. Here are an overview of agreements we already have taken, but they are still on discussion. So there might be changes. They are not fixed yet. So for example, on the precision side, yes, as I already mentioned, there will be no chance for the supervisors to define their precision on national basis. There might be some IT efforts to stick to some things, but the general harmonized way will be a precision of full amounts with cents. This is also a very good idea, mentioned by the software vendors preparing code and FinMap for the national supervisors. They are very happy to get rid of all the rounding problems. Yes, we agreed to have for the monetary values a thickness of 2, so with the mentioning of the cents, full amounts and the cents. So do we deal with nil, null, zero, and blank values? So the nil, the null, and the zero will be a value, and it has to be mentioned in the report. If you have a null value, you can leave out the fact in the instance, or you can put in a nil attribute mentioning that there is no value behind. If it's not applicable, then yes, you need not to mention it in the instance at all. Then the identification of the institutions. There is a nice list of the MFIs that is published in the ECB website. but unfortunately they covered not all reporting institutions. For example, for Germany we have a lot of small investment firms that have to report on CORE, but they are not mentioned here. Also, we have a problem with Norway and other countries adopting CORE and our taxonomies. They are also not listed in the ECB website. So we said, okay, for this time, we said, okay, we use the national proprietary ID code and the scheme where we find these ID codes on the website of the reporting of the National Central Bank. Here's an example listed for Norway. It's just an example. Yes, I just want to give to talk about the changes going up.
Okay, so in order to open a bit of debate, let me review that. For instance, precision and decimal attributes. Imagine that a country that in this moment reporting thousands. What is the reason to change from 1,000 to tens? Sebastian just said that we must take care what are the legacy systems. And obviously to change a country from thousands to tens in primary reporting is a huge investment. What are the reasons for this huge investment? Why the taxpayers may afford this huge expenditure and involving all the credit institutions in a country to be harmonized with Europe? There are some kind of dealing questions here that are not evident. For us, it's extremely easy to work and to reach agreements because it's only put information in a wiki page. But transfer that in implementations in countries is a very different history. The other part is the developments of Europe. The question is that now in Europe, the European Commission and the European Parliament has changed the legislation to make the supervision more uniform. To make the supervision more uniform, we have a clear business case from an IT point of view. The business case is how to provide information to several people in several countries about cross-border credit institutions. Because if each country uses their own way to collect information, we have a problem of semantic interoperability. There are no way to put together the different reports in different countries to be shared across Europe. This is the real problem, and the European Banking Authority is establishing a central database for European supervisory authorities. Obviously, not for, probably not for all the institutions, but by sure for the systemic credit institutions, but because they are too big to be supervised in a single country, because by definition they are cross-border. For instance, the bank in which I have my current account is operating, I don't know, in 40 countries or 50 countries, a lot of them. So the point is that currently each credit institution, the cross-border, is reporting to several financial services authorities in different countries, and the question is how to collect this information coming from different supervisors in a European Banking Authority database. This is the topic that we are dealing in this year. Also, the legal framework have changed. The Omnibus Directive has been passed by the European Commission and the European Parliament, and basically say that the European Banking Authority have to develop uniform formats, frequencies, dates of reporting, in order to harmonize the European banking supervision. Obviously, our colleagues in supervision are dealing with this topic, I think they are killing among them with this topic because how to harmonize that is extremely complex. Each country have their own tradition and each country thinks that the European standard should be the local standard. Obviously, if they are a single country, it's not a problem, but there are several countries, how to negotiate and how to reach an agreement what is the European standard is not extremely easy. But in any case, the idea is to have uniform formats, frequencies, and this sort of reporting. But this is true from a supervisory point of view, but false from an IT point of view. Example, FinRep. FinRep is reported in Europe in consolidated basis and should be uniform in frequencies and so on and so on. But FinRep is also to be reported country by country in solo basis. Why the countries need to develop a FinRep taxonomy, local FinRep taxonomy, and not to reuse the European FinRep taxonomy. So, in our opinion, they should reuse the European FinRep taxonomy, not only for consolidated, also for solo basis. So we have to take care that all European taxonomies will be very likely reused for local countries. And this is a wonderful expression that the European banking authorities have also developed draft technical standards regarding IT solutions. First of all, for me was a surprise because this is only for the European Banking Authority. I don't know why the European Parliament don't use exactly the same wording for the colleasing, securities and insurance. This is only for banking. In my opinion, it's because Catherine, Emil, and the rest of the group we make so wonderful work that they believe in us. I don't know why. But in any case, this is the article in the Omnibus Directive, and we say, okay, we have to help to develop draft technical standards regarding IT solutions. Who knows what is an IT solution? But in our case, IT solution is the word what we are doing. Okay, and the question for us when we start to do that is how to achieve best practices. And maybe that Emil may explain, for instance, the problem that we have with error handling in order to make clear for the rest in a speech. For instance, apparently simple problem, how to manage error handling in Europe, that is not so simple.
Yes, so for the moment, those who are already on XBRL may know the situation that when they are taking a standard XBRL processor, which for instance you have turning on your server, you integrate it in such a way with your taxonomy that you can take some input instances and then you are passing it through. Then you have at the end, of course, a result which is the error result of the processor. And for the moment, we have to say the output that is coming out of there is everything else but easily readable, but easily standardized. And especially if you add another taxonomy, you again have the problem that you have not a type of readable, understandable error messages, so that your user gets information like the formula A plus B equals C failed because the values coming out on the left side are 20 and the values on the right side is 40, but the operand in between the two was the equal sign. So you have a problem with that formula. So something like that in a very readable, understandable way is not standardized, is not existing for the moment in the XBRL world. But luckily we have noticed that there are a number of efforts going on which could help us a lot solving this problem. For the moment there is ongoing work for what we call the rendering link base. Rendering link base essentially gives the possibility to represent a technical cell or a technical data point, as I would call it. A technical data point is consisting of an item in XBRL. What is an item in XBRL in a dimensional taxonomy? That is a primary value, so a primary item combined with 1 to n dimensional items. So if you take this as a tuple, then you have exactly in some multidimensional space, you have exactly one data point. Our users, and we see this again and again when we are doing projects in XBRL, what do the users deliver to us? The users deliver to us a bunch of Excels. So they are delivering us a number of sheets within an Excel where you have rows, where you have columns, where you have sheets, and sometimes even on one sheet you have supplementary axes of dimensions. So you are going even further. So that is what I would call their view of the world. So they are thinking like this. They are looking at balance sheets in some identifying their rows, identifying one or multiple columns. So they do not know, and they want not to be aware, because here we are speaking of accountants that are sitting in banks. They are not at all interested in stuff like multi-dimensional or making 20 or 30 dimensions or something. It is not in their bank accounting schema in there as such. It is not in the world they are knowing. And so there is always this eternal gap in between the IT part being consisting of this XBRL worlds of in which the data points are presented the way I told before, and their view, which is kind of an Excel filled with data on several sheets. So this eternal gap, and also the problems in between, the communication problem, for instance, as their IT guy, what a data item is, he has to identify which are the dimensions involved, as the business user, where his figure is wrong or right at a certain place. Well, he has to look up in his Excel, so what was the data I filled there, and why is the formula that, for instance, the supervisor gave me, why is it wrong? Why does it give on the left side something different than on the right side? So to be back on that's what we hope will help solving this issue is exactly the rendering link base. So I cannot tell you the details because Victor is much more competent to do so. But the idea is the following: is that rendering link base will help us harmonize, so make kind of a transformation of the IT view of a data point into a user view of a data point. So reharmonizing and reassociating that what up to now has been two separate worlds, so it's kind of building the bridge in between the two. And this is true, first of all, for the representation of instances. So we, hopefully, using the rendering link base, will be, at the end, capable to regenerate from this internal representation of the data instance, the XBRL instance. We will hopefully be able to regenerate the Excel view, if I can call it like this, of the user, which our accountant in the bank is used to. So that's one point. But a very, very important point is also that the same problem applies to the XBRL error messages, which up to now have not been, especially not in a standardized or user-readable way, integrated into the taxonomy. Now with the arrival and the ongoing standardization of the rendering link base, which definitely we need for the next version of ThinWeb Correct, with this standardization that is going on, we have for the first time the chance to get back from our evaluation processor the different technical values that were accumulated in some way that gave back some results. And now, with the help of the rendering link base, we will have a chance, hopefully, if everything goes the way we plan to have it, to transform that technical information, that unreadable for the accountant, ununderstandable, multidimensional stuff, something here in the multidimensional data space back into his world, back into the view he has of the data, back where he can retrace, okay, so that was the value in that cell and that was the value in cell, so why is it not identical to the total? And so this is something which we hope that we can completely integrate the information on how the error message should look like, this time in the taxonomy, because that's where it belongs. Because otherwise we are dependent from stuff like the version of and the provider of your XBRL processor. You will depend on whether you use an interactive editor with validation functionalities, etc. And hopefully at the end, if you have chosen the right product, you are maybe getting something readable, some good error message. No, that's not a good way to do it. Where it has to be at exactly one place. It has to be in the taxonomy. It has to work independent on any provider. It has to come back in such a way that the one who understood the formula and who has to understand the formula to implement it correctly, that is the implementer who has complete knowledge from his business user who has defined the value. So only if these people which are knowing what is the right message to return, if they are giving the correct labels back with the required information, so the user view information on which cells are concerned, then the left-right values, then stuff like margins, so what margins were included, because a lot of the supervisors are allowing differences in margins in the results. And so this is one of our essential goals now, to bring out a taxonomy which hopefully this time, if everything goes right, and using the rendering link base, will give us back in a standardized way the adequate error message, understandable not to the business user, sorry, not to the IT guy, that's not the essential goal, but to the back-end business user. And so hopefully, if it works the way we want, then there we may have this time an integrated solution giving even harmonized error messages back whenever one of the rules that are going to be implemented in formula will fail. So.
Okay, so only to close, this is our vision that we will have Europe organized in a way that we may provide for the case institutions a reduction of the regulatory burden, and also maybe that obviously in our area of competence with Corep and FINRE, but also with an aim in the other colleagues, for instance, statistics, European Central Bank, or potentially the colleagues of supervision in securities, insurance, business register, who knows. The idea is try to be harmonized and interoperable in Europe, because at the end of the day are the European taxpayers who afford this kind of gains. And now it's time for questions. Could you come here, please?
Could you give us the information about the schedule, about all this rendering information, formula, maybe harmonization in the standard precision? It is for the next part 3 implementation of the taxonomy, or it is a longer time schedule?
Well, this is the topic of the presentation of Catherine and me,
yes,
to close the workshop. But basically, our idea is that we are working in that right now. To work, obviously not this year because we have no time, but basically 2011 to be complete in 2012, hopefully. More than best practices will be best effort, but okay. Any other question? Oh.
question. I understood from one of the first slides of your presentation that there is no reporting foreseen for an element that cannot exist. Sounds reasonable. On the other hand, I come from the ECB side. There you have mandatory reporting. Also, when things cannot exist, you have to give it as a missing for no reason. I don't know how you intend to deal with that.
The not applicable values are marked with gray cells. So they can be also discussed if they do not exist at all, and if it could be a positive value there, but they do not need to be reported. So they are grayed out. So these are not applicable values.
But you basically have the knowledge that it is not non-applicable. That is then you would transfer that knowledge forward that way as a value.
And we don't want to have these values because the banking supervisors do not want values they do not supervise. This is why they forbid reporting of those cells.
Okay.
Other questions? Thank you. And I think we have now a coffee break for at least 20 minutes.
Are not specifically the most ingenious people in worldwide, but anyway, we promised to do our best in order that you have a good record of this last part of the workshop. In the last part of the workshop, we have basically the 3L3, 3 Lamfalussy level 3 institutions, that is quite arcane. And the idea is to comment what is happening in the police of supervision on securities, Committee of European Securities Regulators, also the colleagues in CEOPS that is related with insurance. And after that, Catherine and me, as co-coordinators of the XBRL operational network of the Committee of European Banking Supervisors, will present what we agree more or less to work in the coming years. So, Hala is now with you on behalf of the Committee of European Security Regulators.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank the organizers for the invitation to us to attend the seminar and to give a presentation of where CSER currently stands in terms of XBRL. I'm working as a senior expert on transparency directive issues in CSER, so I'm on the business side of CSER. Apologies for possible or for all IT experts involved in the seminar. I'm not deeply involved in or my knowledge in IT is not so deep, but I must admit it has evolved during the course of our work in this regard. What I'm going to present you today is first short overview what CSER is and what it does. Then a bit broader perspective to financial reporting and availability of financial reports in Europe. From securities regulators' point of view, the availability of information to issuer to investors is a key issue, and actually our work in terms of XBRL is looking at issues from the viewpoint of investors as well. And finally, I then update you on what we are currently doing in terms of XBRL. Our assessment on possible introduction of XBRL reporting for listed issuers is ongoing, and I will give you the latest update on that work. I must admit that when we started our work with regard to XBRL, we didn't quite anticipate how much attention our work ultimately has received. Naturally, this is quite a big exercise in scope if you consider roughly 8,000 listed issuers who would perhaps need to file information, their financial statements in XBRL. The scope of that work is such huge that we really need to focus on the costs and benefits of XBRL reporting, and that's something we are currently doing, and what we are aiming at consulting market participants during the course of 2011. Before going into the subject itself, I just like to give you a short overview of what XIII is and what it does. I'm sure that some of you at least know already XIII's work, but there may be someone in the audience who is not so closely involved in XIII's operations, and therefore just a quick overview what we do. We are a committee of securities regulators, one of the three level 3 loan policy committees, along with SEPs and CEOPS. We are concentrating on securities sector, and just like the other two level 3 committees, we are an advisory group assisting the EU Commission in our sector, and the aim of our work is to achieve as much convergence as possible in the European internal market in the securities sector. We work mostly through standing committees which are organized along different areas of supervision, like market abuse, financial information, corporate finance, investment management, and so on. As level 3 committees, we work on a consensus basis. That means that we are trying to coordinate our members' views and achieve harmonization through common interpretations, common guidelines, and common common advice to the Commission on specific issues. The role of CISA Secretariat is to coordinate the work. The members are the ones who take the decisions, and in that coordination, we are basically working closely with members in drafting of different documents and preparation of advices to the Commission. As you all probably know, CISA, as well as the two other level 3 committees, will transform into European supervisory authorities. We will become European Securities and Markets Authority starting 1st of January next year. We will have also some entities that are directly supervised by us, in contrast to the two other two other supervisory authorities, we will have credit rating agencies directly under our supervision. But perhaps that's enough for the overview of what we do, and then let's turn into the subject itself. The availability of financial information, as I said, is one of the key issues for securities regulators. Investors need to be able to make decisions on a fully informed basis. For that reason, they need accurate and up-to-date information on the financial position and performance of issuers. The legal background in this regard relates to the Transparency Directive, which was issued in 2004. It requires each member state to set up a central storage facility for all financial information disclosed by listed issuers. The directive is quite vague on future development of the network. It requires that such central storage facilities, or OEMs as we call them, needs to be interlinked. But the legal basis for enforcing any rules on OEMs or interlinking those OEMs is still missing. The European Commission has given in 2006 a recommendation on the technical requirements for national OEMs and technical requirements for setting up the network of OEMs. That recommendation is based on CISA's advice, which was issued in 2006 as well, that recommendation is actually quite well followed in member states when they have set up their OEMs, their national OEMs. The recommendation also asks for future development of the network. It creates a vision where there should be an integrated network which has harmonized searching facilities centrally, common input formats for information which the issuers file, common types of regulated information. That means categorization of the documents that are filed in the OEM should be harmonized throughout the EU. The recommendation also envisages an even wider network of financial information. It envisages that these national OEMs should also be interlinked with national business registers in order to give investors and end users even more information from a single source. The recommendation also asks CISA to analyze how the supervision of the common elements of the network should be organized, whether it should be entrusted to a single body of supervisors. So far, as I told you, the member states have followed the recommendation quite well. All member states have set up an OEM, although in some member states these OEMs still work on an interim basis. They are still setting up their systems for being more in line with the other member states. There is quite a variety in terms of organization of these storage facilities. About half of them are operated by competent authorities, the securities regulators themselves. About 35% are operated by stock exchanges, and about 15% operated by a third party, either company register or official journal or commercial information provider. This variety of in the organization of OEMs, of course, poses challenges to our work as well. It is not sufficient that we within CSR coordinate the views of our 29 members. We need to take into account those roughly 15 OEMs that are not CSR members. So far, we in CSR have set up a central access point for the information that is stored at the national OEMs. That central access point covers issuers of shares that are listed in Europe. So there are something like 7,000 shares admitted to trading in Europe, and by clicking the name of share in the CSR's MiFID database, you will be directed to the national OEM which stores the information about that issuer. We are still missing in that database. We are still missing issuers of other securities than shares. For example, issuers of debt securities. Currently, there is no public database available of these securities, but in the course of our development of the network, we will need to develop that kind of database as well. In early 2010, the Commission published an external study on the operation of these national OEMs. The conclusions of that study were that these are not widely used as primary source of information for investors. It seems that investors are looking for information more from commercial service providers like Reuters and Bloomberg, or directly from the websites of issuers. Still, we consider that these national storage facilities have added value in the storage of regulated information, and we consider that through the development of the central access to that information and through promoting the visibility of national OEMs, we can improve the usefulness of the OEMs and improve the usage of that information as a primary source of information. If you compare the situation to, for example, in the USA, I'm sure everyone doing investments in USA is well aware of EDGAR, the SEC's system which stores information disclosed by issuers. It is a central system for the whole United States. In Europe, we have decided to set up a system that is based on national central storage facilities, but now we aim to have central access to all that information which is stored in 29 member states. As I told you before, we are asked to do development of the network. We are expecting to report to the Commission on the development of the network, and that has also given us a chance to consider what kind of information needs are really important for investors, what kind of solutions would be desirable the viewpoint of investors and the European markets. We have considered two basic options. First option was to build on a decentralized model which is already in place, but to improve the search facilities. The second option was to create a single pan-European database, such like the SEC's EDGAR. We have analyzed those two options, and in our consultation paper on which was released in August this year, we had our preference on the decentralized model still. The main reasons for keeping the decentralized model was to keep the costs for issuers lower and to keep the connection to local markets, which still is very strong. Keep it better promoted. What we proposed in our consultation paper was to gradually develop the central access point and functionalities of the network, so that the investors would ultimately really have pan-European access from a single point to all information that is stored or all information that is published by issuers. In the first step, we would extend the current network of issuers of shares to cover all issuers of securities. The second step would actually implement a pan-European search facility through storing more metadata on issuers and filings at the national and central access point level. Investors looking for information at the central access point would be able to search information on basis of, for example, business category or type of document that is filed. In the third step, the search facilities would be expanded to cover also content of the documents, and this is basically where also our considerations on XBRL come into play. This kind of search through 29 member states and thousands and thousands of filings would require harmonization of filing formats in each OAMs in order to enable cross-country searches to those filed documents. And as such, we are considering different ways of structured information, and XBRL is certainly one of those ways that could help us in improving the access to financial information and developing the network towards a real pan-European network. As said, we published a consultation paper in August 2012. We got 33 responses to the consultation paper. There was a strong support for the preferred approach, the decentralized approach, which would gradually upgrade the network functionalities. There was also support for the proposed search facilities, the pieces of metadata that we propose to store at the central access point and at the national level. As I said before, we have seen quite a huge interest towards our work in regard to XBRL even in this consultation, where we didn't ask any specific questions on XBRL, we just said that we will analyze the issue further and consult the market in 2011. We received a bunch of responses, some promoting XBRL, some being heavily against XBRL. It's perhaps no surprise that those who are against XBRL are mainly those who would need to pay the bill, that is the issuers. There was also, in terms of development of access to information, there was also interesting remarks made as regards unique issuer identifier, which would basically allow interlinking of different databases, be it securities databases, these OAMs, business registers, and so on. We are certainly looking at that possibility as well. We know that, for example, there is a draft ISO standard on issuer and guarantor identifier. We will have to look at the issue further, but such an unique identifier would really be helpful in connecting different EU or global databases which relate to securities markets. We are currently in the process of finalizing our report. We expect to be able to submit the report to the Commission before Christmas. Now let's turn the focus on XBRL. As said, when we considered the development of the OAM network, we realized that structured information would certainly be helpful in manipulating and analyzing data that is stored. Currently, the information is stored at national OAMs, usually in PDF documents. It is not easy for investors to extract information from those documents. It always requires manual work. At the same time, we know that commercial service providers do have databases which have information, financial information on issuers stored in structured format. But those formats are proprietary, and those databases can only be used against payment. Therefore, we have started to analyze the introduction of XBRL in financial reporting of listed issuers. We launched the work in a call for evidence that was released roughly a year ago. We got 39 responses. There was support for introduction of structured formats for financial information, and basically XBRL was the language in which would be used to store the information in structured format. However, issuers and also some users of financial information, banks, for example, expressed concern that introduction of XBRL reporting for full financial statements for all issuers in Europe would be costly, and they also expressed their view that there seems to be lack of market demand for that kind of structured information, or lack of market demand for XBRL filings. At the same time, when we look what happens elsewhere in the world, we know that the SEC has mandated the use of XBRL in filings of financial information by all issuers. The Japanese FSA has also done the same. There are much more initiatives going on around the world. We also need to consider the competitiveness of the European markets, and therefore the CISA chairman of national supervisors unanimously supported the proposal that CISA would make an in-depth analysis of XBRL, its costs and benefits for European markets. CISA's Standing Committee on Corporate Reporting, better known with the acronym XIII, has been mandated to analyze the potential introduction of mandatory filing and how we currently analyze it is with expectation that such filing requirements would enter into force within 5 years, perhaps preceding by a voluntary filing period before that. Our key considerations are as said, that we want to have actually more automated searching of information at the pan-European level. We want to give end users flexibility in terms of how the data can be manipulated in the analysis that the investment analysts, for example, do. However, we have to admit that the solution needs to fulfill the needs of end users. In contrast to what SEPS, for instance, does, is that issuer supervision is based on information that is disclosed to markets. We as securities regulators do not require regular reporting from issuers to regulators. We require the reporting from issuers to market participants, investors. That puts us in a bit different position. We need to make sure that XBRL is really what the market needs, what would really benefit the market participants as a whole. But at the same time, we will need to keep in mind the progress that is going on at the European and at the global level. As we know, SEPS is well advanced in the use of XBRL. SEOPS is doing work which is also related to XBRL, and if you consider the establishment of the European supervisory framework that will come into force in 2011, these three new authorities are also requested to coordinate their work among themselves. Also, the European Systemic Risk Board is being established at the same time. That Systemic Risk Board will need some sort of information also on issuers, but the magnitude of the information is still unknown, and further analysis and further work in that regard is still undertaken. As said, we have currently limited our work to annual and interim financial reports of listed issuers, and of only those listed issuers which are required to use IFRS for their financial statements. Or perhaps I shouldn't say only, because it's a clear majority of the issuers. We didn't want to include national gaps in our analysis at this stage, because that would have required analysis of 29 different gaps in addition to the analysis of IFRS. We also acknowledge that if mandatory XBRL filing or any XBRL filing is introduced for issuers in terms of financial information, that will most likely lead to introduction of XBRL filing also in other areas. Wider set of documents which are filed by issuers, like corporate governance statements, corporate actions, information on corporate actions, dividend payouts, major shareholding notifications, short selling disclosures, all these kind of documents perhaps could then be published in structured format. We also acknowledge that if CSR undertakes work in XBRL in terms of issuers, that may well lead to extension of XBRL to other areas of CSR's work, like credit rating agencies or mutual funds. What we are currently analyzing in the course of our work, the scope is for listed issuers, but we are analyzing different ways to implement the requirement, the possible requirement. We are considering whether we should use an open taxonomy like the SEC does. Issuers can add their own extensions as long as they give make available the taxonomy they have used. We are on the other hand, the possibility is to limit to a closed taxonomy. Some third country regulators, as the Israeli Securities Authority, has a closed taxonomy which is based on IFRS taxonomy, but only includes something like 200 tags. We have to analyze what are the end users' needs. If we have very limited set of tags which are to be used, would that be useful for end users? Then again, if we have a full set of taxonomy fully extensible by issuers, would that affect somehow the comparability of the disclosures? One thing in our analysis is the principle of freedom of presentation in the IFRS financial statements. How does that affect comparability of XBRL filings? That is, I think, one of the key issues, and is most likely also linked to the governance issues of the taxonomies. Who will govern the extensions? What kind of governance structures are needed? What kind of enforcement structures are needed in order to manage disclosures by these 8,000 issuers? We are also assessing the quality of IFRS taxonomy. We know that the SEC, for instance, has voiced some concerns over the quality of IFRS taxonomy. They have said that they are worried about the number of extensions the issuers need to use when preparing their financial statements. As part of our work, we will also analyze different filing mechanisms that perhaps could be used for filing of that information. The European Commission is very concerned about the lack of visibility of small and medium-sized issuers in Europe, and is concerned about the trend that the European capital markets do not attract new small and medium-sized issuers to list on in Europe. Would there be any possibilities to ease the life of these issuers through different filing mechanisms? This is also linked to the question whether we would end up having closed or open taxonomy. In a closed taxonomy, it might be easier to use, for instance, a web page where the issuer could just fill in those fields that are required and submit the information. We are also analyzing whether there is a need for phased-in approach. This is partially linked to the fact that the IFRS taxonomy has not been field tested in several hundreds or thousands of companies. Perhaps there is a need to have a phased-in approach, for instance, to cover first only large cap issuers, then extends to small and medium cap issuers as well. And of course, a phased-in approach would also mean perhaps voluntary filing at the first stage, then mandatory filing at a later stage. All these issues need to be analyzed, and basically certain possible ways to implement need to be established before we can even assess the potential benefits and costs of XBRL filing. And all this work is currently going on, and actually there seems to be pressure that we should expedite our work, but as you can see and imagine, this is not an easy task to do. It really requires thorough investigation of the issues and thorough consideration. To conclude my presentation, we really see merit in XBRL as a common format for structured reporting. We see merit in promoting European markets, promoting a single access point to all financial information, which is disclosed by issuers in Europe. At the same time, we need to carefully assess the impact of XBRL to issuers, to regulators, and to other market participants. We need to cooperate with other organizations, SEOs, SEC, European Systemic Risk Board, and so on. Interoperability of different taxonomies, different filing mechanisms is certainly a key concern when considering cost issues. And in this regard, for instance, interoperability of possible taxonomies that are introduced for these purposes, interoperability should be ensured with correct taxonomies, direct taxonomies as well. But it seems that there is clearly some sort of momentum for our work currently. The financial crisis has showed that there is a need for more transparency in the markets. There is need for managing all the different databases that are covering information about securities and issuers of securities. There is need to make it for investors easier to access information about issuers in order to be able to promote the transparency and the competitiveness of the European markets. That is, in short, what we are currently doing in terms of XBRL and enhancing pan-European access to financial information. I would like to thank you for your interest, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Questions? So, colleagues. After this clear explanation of Sebastian related to securities, excuse me. Then Jim will explain to us the twin project related to Basel II, that is Solvency II.
I don't know. I mean, I won't explain everything about Solvency II because we don't have enough time. I don't think we have a week behind us. I will concentrate on the one part of the Solvency II project, which is directly linked to future IT resources or capabilities of the network of European supervisors. That is what we are doing as far as quantitative reporting is concerned. So I will quickly, because I don't think we have a lot of time, spoke about our objectives, the general structure of the thing, the expected frequency and deadline so far, how we did manage a process for the quantitative reporting template and also the qualitative reporting template, so something in the consultation done with the stakeholder, and then finish with some information on the IT dimension. That's not the same dimension as used in XBRL. So indeed, we are speaking about quantitative data, and we think that it's essential for a supervisory process. That's an essential input at micro and macro level. So we spoke a little about the relationship that are being set up with the ESRB and the relationship between the level 3 authorities that are also being set up these days. And we want, one of our objectives is that we use a standardized format because we need to be able to exchange information. We'll come a little later on that, but not only exchange information, but exchanging information that we all can understand. So within the Solvency II framework, it's something that will concern at the same time with the same that we want to enforce, solo undertaking and group undertaking. That means Europe-wide something like between 300 and 5,000 and 4,000, between 3,500 and 4,000 people that will have to use the new regulatory framework to report information. And now maybe something on the Solvency II approach. It's something layered with a top-level directive that we already know that give the framework of the Solvency II framework. It was adopted last year and published. Now it's in force. But it's not sufficient. Then there is what we call level 2 implementing measure. Implementing measure is beginning to give some details on the principles set in the directive. These implementing measures are not yet known. They are in the process of being designed or finalized, and this is a discussion that is happening just now between the European Commission and the member state, and in the end it will be adopted through a regulation or a new directive or something, but it will be binding for all the European markets. And then when you have the framework, when you have some more details on what has to be done, then we have a third level, which is indeed a practical level. And this third level has itself two sub-components. One is guidelines that are discussed and presented by CEOPS today and EIOPA starting January 1st next year, because us also we will change our role and change our name. But guidelines cannot be binding for the European zone. In order for something to be binding, well, you need to have some political agreement on that. And so there will be also at the third level, the very practical one, what we call binding technical standard. That is something that will be prepared on the technical side by EIOPA, future name of CEOPS, and all the members of EIOPA. And then, we hope, accepted by the European Commission, but maybe amended a little before being enacted to be a binding thing for all European markets. So, maybe just one thing. So, I was saying that level 2 is being discussed. Level 3, well, we expect that this binding technical standard will be, we call it operational risk. So that's something that we expect to be published in the middle of 2012. Just one word on the timeline. Solvency II will come into force January 1st, 2013. So the last step of the framework from a legal point of view will be known only 6 months before the entry in force. Hopefully we'll have some early information before that. So what is our current situation? Well, there is a lot of differences among member states because usually reporting is based on, more or less based on local accounting, and as you know, there is not a single set of accounting rules in force across Europe. We know that there is IFRS for books, but we know that depending on the countries, well, they use or not IFRS also for the solo reporting. So far, we have a huge difference between member states, and as was said before, it's not enough to exchange information. Well, you have to send semantic for cash flows, for example, like. So we decided that that we will try to go the other way around, maximum harmonization, full harmonization. And indeed, I think that Ignacio asked why there was nothing in directive saying that we should use a normalized format or the like. Well, just remind that the Solvency project is a project which was launched by the European Commission, DG Market. So indeed, that the other way around. You have to have a very strong case to explain that you need to have something that is a little different from the other. So from the start, there was no issue. We were aiming for maximum harmonization, and in any working group of CEOPS, when somebody is saying, well, in my country it's a little different, usually the reply of the Commission is, well, just think and work a little more. No, it may be not so different. So we are aiming for full harmonization from the start, and well, we think that it's important to enable exchange of comparable information between authorities, especially for college. I don't know if you have a clear view on the way colleges work, but indeed it's the same for the banking side. There will be a college of supervisors with an increasing role in the future that will be expected to exchange information as fast as they are available among the college members. And in order to do that, well, you have to have some common language or some common IT format. We can then do some comparison of data between countries, find some benchmarks, some outliers, that kind of thing. We can also do some aggregation of figures at European level. And obviously, there is a clear demand from cross-border groups, at least, that, well, they are a little fed up that they are requested to send similar but different information in a different format in every country where they are working. So there is some pressure for the market to have some harmonized things so that it indeed reduces the burden on them. And with all that, it may help the convergence of supervisory practice on the first place within the work of college. So what we aim in working on our future reporting framework. We have done this in where we started to work on the semantic, because something that is interesting to know about Solvency II is that, well, we don't have a lot of things that we can reuse. For example, when the project was launched, there was the idea to base the valuation on the IFRS accounting framework, but IFRS at this time hadn't finished to work on the liability side of the balance sheet of supervisors, that means the insurance contract. And they were not expected to finish their reflection until, I don't know, 2013 or something, well, after the enforce of Solvency II. So the Commission reply was very simple. They have put in the Solvency II directive 2 or 3 sentences saying that, well, that are meaning in a way that we will use a total balance sheet approach, a full fair value and the like, and something which is not directly in line with the IFRS work. So we had some new valuation framework set up by the directive, and now we are looking looking at what the IFRS is doing, because the aim of everybody is that both systems are not so different, but so far they are not the same. So we had to indeed reinvent in a way a kind of accounting set of templates. So with a balance sheet, with a result analysis, or more exactly a variation analysis, because within the Solvency II framework there is nothing as a profit and loss account. So we have to find something else to explain differences between one balance sheet and the other one. Capital requirement, asset, technical provision, all these will replace, starting beginning of 2013, all the existing comparable content in all the member states. These are defined centrally at CEOPS or BAGOPA level, and will replace all the existing content. And indeed, there is some place for national specificities, but it's very clear that this national specificity or added template cannot overlap with what is already in the common framework. And as I said, whenever somebody is proposing a national specificity, he has to explain he has to have a very good business case to explain that yes, it will be needed. So there won't be a lot of things not replaced by the control-defined reporting templates, but something nonetheless, so which has some implication from an IT point of view. There will be a centrally defined thing, but we have to bear in mind that, well, in some countries there may be some add-ons on that. So what do we have in our template? As I said, it concerns at the same time solo and groups. And indeed, we decided that groups will be based on solo. They will use the same set of templates, plus some specific templates to address the group specificities, such as the non-EEA component of a group, such as infra-group transaction or risk concentration, or the specific thing that you have on a group that you don't look at usually at the solo level. But except of that, this will be, so group template will be the same as the solo template. So what we know so far, or what we expect so far, because the deadline will be set in the level 2 implementing measures that are not yet published, and so it may change in the next few months. So we will have annual templates that will be in the long run available 16 weeks after the end of the year. We will have also quarterly template that will be available 6 weeks after the end of the quarter. And also group templates, which have a little more delay because it's a little more complicated to do the aggregation at group level. But that means that, well, everybody should be ready to accept harmonized data using an harmonized format, a common format, in the first quarter of 2030. That's not so far from now. How do we conducted our work in the last few months and years? Well, there was first a rough idea of what we could ask, which was published as the form of a consultation paper in CEOPS consultation paper 58. And following that, there have been a lot of feedback from, well, you know, in some way everybody, because it was a public consultation. So further to that, there was a lot of work to address the concerns that were expressed. And after that, there was a second round of consultation, not a public one this time, but more dedicated consultation on part of the future reporting framework or future reporting template with some stakeholders that committed indeed to have an in-depth look at that and provide us useful feedback so we could adjust the content. And this happened from last April to last September. And following all that, there's a partial consultation and the feedback have been compiled, analyzed by a SEWORK workstream, and we intend to produce a further pre-consultation thing, but this time covering the whole set of requirements in the next December. And then after that, we will be in a way in a good position to propose something to the European Commission, so that when the Commission will, or will be able to propose, we hope, a good draft binding technical standard, so that the Commission will be able to publicly consult, because all the things have to be publicly consulted. But there will be only, we hope, margin thing to fix in the overall framework. Well, as I said previously, the official publication is not expected before mid-2012 with an entry in force 6 months later. So what we are saying, well, that's an open issue. If there is a lot of, or if there is major changes late in the process, it will be quite a nightmare for everybody, IT guy, but also for the business process guy, to be ready at the start of 2013. Both for non-tracking and supervisor, because we will have to be able to collect data, to exchange data, so the use of standard format to exchange information, and to indeed put some data in some kind of centralized database, so that we can also provide information to the ESRD. So, short code, what is that? Okay, so now the IT dimension. Well, we started to think on that 1 year ago, and it was quite an interesting challenge, because we knew that it was a brand new framework, valuation and risk modeling included, that both for supervisor and undertaking, so many new concepts to translate in a usable way in a short period of time. More than 3,500 reporting entities, very tight timeline. We examined at the time XML, XBRL, SDMX also, and other possibilities. And our first idea 1 year ago, it was before the availability of the template. It was, we were doing some parallel work given the timeline. We thought that going to an XML solution seemed easier than to go to an XBRL. We had some discussion saying, well, maybe in the future it will make sense to use XBRL because it's growing usage all over the place. But at the same time, we had in mind that we had to have this number of people that didn't know XBRL to be on board on the 1st of January 2013. So we started the work end of June based on the first draft template available. And in a way, we have used a kind of methodology, an interesting methodology to do our work given the timeline. First, there was the semantic part that was addressed by the business people of SEOPS working group. And then from this work to go to the semantic part to a kind of data model, we put together business people and IT people so that they could understand each other even before the template were finalized. And now, where are we? Well, in a way, all the content has been analyzed, and we have what you would call, in using the XBRL language, primary item and dimension for all the data points that we will be used in the future. And we found, by the way, that some templates were a little more complex than one we thought initially before seeing the precise requirement that is the template. We are still dependent on business requirement, stabilization. As I said, it may change, or it will change. For how long, we don't know yet. And so, what will be probably the next step as far as the IT is concerned? Well, there will be a further pre-consultation for the templates themselves, the Excel sheet, so that people feel, business people feel comfortable. There will be probably also a kind of pre-consultation on the supporting IT framework. And then, in the end, there will be a formal consultation, a binding solution. But our main concern is that everything has to go live at the beginning of 2013. So that's, well, where we are as far as IT is concerned, we have made a very big progress on the transforming the template in an IT framework, a kind of XML framework, but based on the concept quite near of those that are used in XBRL. We are still working on that, and we expect to be able to pre-consult sometime in the beginning of next year. So if you have some questions. Yeah.
Talk about the deadlines. We want to say that there may be another round like this. Maybe more
well, let's see that's something different. We ask people to try to pre-test on a voluntary basis what it could what could be the outcome in the future. So there was now a phase 5 with a very high level of participation, something like 2,400 or 500 undertaking replied. Now, will there be a 6th? Yes. Nobody knows so far. Some people are saying, well, maybe there will be a 6 years, but maybe focus on the few pending issues, but it's not really clear. Because the 5th QAS was expected to be the last one and was expected to test almost the final thing. But at the beginning of the year, there was a lot of new concern that came out that said that, well, on a number of aspects, maybe the model could be still refined. And so there was something that was tested in US 5, and it was indeed the first time. So before we have analyzed a little more the output of US 5, it's quite difficult to say if we will need one or so. So as far as the work of everybody is concerned, maybe it's something that the files be able to see, but there is still a touchy issue that needs to be for which the European Commission sees that a consultation or data collection is needed. In this case, there will be less, but we don't know.
Okay, no more questions? Thank you very much. Again, so the latest, but not the least, presentation.
Okay, after the two committees of the European Commission, and now it's our turn to give you more detailed information about our plans for the next years. Yes, kind of a way forward for 2011 until 2013, where we have binding technical standards upcoming that were already announced for CORD and FinWeb. The working targets for this year is the preparation of the data point structure for FinWeb and for CORD. As Michael and Bartosz have presented yesterday, we have already a preliminary version we are going to review, especially for CORD, and also quite a good version for FinWeb, but both frameworks are going to change next year. So we'll have changes, upcoming changes for CORD and FinWeb. And we will have an interoperable data model together with ESI statistics framework, so some common basis, and on top of this, specialized taxonomies for these different frameworks. We want to create an header taxonomy to have harmonized European reporting. This is to summarize all the reporting aspects that are not covered in the tables. For example, who is the sender, who is the addressee, who is the person who sends the report, for which reporting purpose, which tables are included, which approaches used, maybe, which is it on a solo or consolidated basis. All these information are not yet covered in this table. It should be somewhere in a taxonomy and be reported in a harmonized way. We will create the FinWeb taxonomy revision 2, because the first user will be will need this taxonomy in 2012. And we want to find agreements on best practices. I have presented. They are not yet finalized, and we hope to finalize them in the next 2 years. And we need to define proposals on how to deal with the proportionality that the CORD network has prepared, and it has to be also included in the IT framework. Okay.
So the topic is why we are making the data model interoperable with BSI and MIR statistics is because it's easy to do that. The topic is that in our working group where the euro filing have a meaning. It's euro and filing. And there are a lot of things that must be filed in Europe. Where is the need to make the things difficult when maybe easier? So the topic of statistics is because one central bank is, as well as the other national central banks, is involved both in primary reporting for supervision and primary reporting for statistics. And this central bank put some effort in order to make the taxonomy of the statistics interoperable with the taxonomies with supervision, and we agree, why not? So the idea is we will develop a common data model for our area of collaboration. Our area of collaboration is FinRep, COREP, and in this kind of statistics, why not? Because the cost to make the thing interoperable for us is nothing. Related with the cost, well, we analyze the problem of cost, how much cost all of this. The budget for this year is 55,000 euros. I will repeat, 55,000 euros. With this money, we are working, obviously, our salaries is not included. But with this money, the idea is we will develop the data model and the taxonomy for FinRep revision 2 that has been requested by a European country to be implemented as soon as possible. In addition to that, we work with topics, for instance, in best practices with XBRL Europe through Derek the brand, that is our contact point with XBRL Europe, because we are not the experts, for instance, in identifying companies. The experts to identify companies are the business register in Europe. Business register in Europe is using XBRL. For instance, in Spain, the business register of Spain has received this year 600,000 XBRL reports. 600,000 XBRL reports. What was the cost of that? The Spanish government subsidized an open source module to generate XBRL instance documents according to the Spanish GAAP taxonomy. Okay? This open source module was used by all the Spanish providers of accountant packages. That cost an accountant package maybe 200 euros. The cost of this open source module was 60,000 euros. 60,000 euros. Thanks to that, 600,000 Spanish companies reports now has been reported, in fact, in XBRL. Cost per company, 10 euro cents. I will repeat, 10 euro cents. Maybe too expensive because everybody knows that we have a serious financial crisis. But this is the order of magnitude of the topic. Why we are interested in the business register, for instance, in Spain? Because, in turn, the Bank of Spain needs information for the non-listed, non-financial companies for macroeconomical studies. So we are reusing the taxonomy prepared by the business register to ask to the market, please send to us, balance it earlier for our studies. So we, as Bank of Spain, we save money thanks to this kind of interoperability. And we are saving money, we help our colleagues, and we collaborate not only at European level, also at local level, because this is the idea of Eurofiling, collaboration. And the collaboration, in our experience, reduces the cost a lot, because Catherine and me are the survivors of the original team, started working in September 2004, as far as I remember. And until now, we work without huge amount of money. Obviously, at the end, the implementation costs money, but it costs money any kind of technology. The specific work with the standards don't cost more money. In fact, we discovered that this is, for us, is our important of best practices, is that a standard used in a proprietary way, the final result is a proprietary solution. If we use XBRL in a proprietary way, at the end we obtain a proprietary solution, like a flat file or something similar. For such a reason, we are insisting too much, and never is too much, to insist in best practices and also in collaboration with our colleagues in Europe. In fact, XBRL for us is nothing. What is really important is the collaborative framework. We can move from XBRL to OWG, semantic technologies, whatever technology. This is not important. The only important point in our experience is the collaborative framework that produces standards.
On the next slide, there is a timeline for 2011 on core. You see two streams or two tracks. The core team still works. So it's blue, the other one is more, in gold is more blue, and the other one is black. The black ones are the tasks of the business guys. They are working actually on the revision of the tables for the CLT4, as far as I know. These are the changes that were upcoming next year, and they have to be transformed also in the taxonomy. So we will have a taxonomy next year, in the end of next year, around the same time as now, publication of the core taxonomy under 4.0. I think this will be the release number. It will be based on the old XBRL architecture. So, like if you know the current ones that are now in production. And there's a stream 2, the harmonized ones. The core team of the operation network, they are working on the inclusions of the CLD4 changes also in the streamline tables that were finalized more or less last year concerning the harmonization. And now they incorporate only the changes they get from the CLDs. They are also in the need of the definition of validation rules. They have to prepare it in a specific way. We have not yet a decision about how they should prepare these validation rules, maybe in a more descriptive way. Please calculate all the breakdowns to our sum, or like they've done in the former times by summarizing all the position numbers to a specific position number of the total. This is the other way, I think, and it's error prone. So we as the network, I think, would prefer to have it in a more descriptive way, so it's easier to handle, also with the dimensions and so on. What we have to do is then update the data point structure prepared for this year. So incorporating all these changes in the data point structure, preparing a mapping between the data model and the existing Excel files so that it can easily valued. And we have also to create the streamlined taxonomy for core for the end of next year. Also with an additional formula need base, all based on the new XBRL architecture.
Yes, you have the architecture has been developed in 2009. You may find all this information in our website. The idea that for collaborate, you need to be transparent. All the information we manage is immediately posted in our website. Well, basically, the only exception is the draft templates, because we are not allowed to do that. But in general, all our information is public. This workshop is public, is being broadcasted, it will be recorded to be uploaded to internet, because in 2011 we have basically the same budget than 2010 and the same than 2009, about 55,000 euros. And with these 55,000 euros, we have to work to develop this core and also the FinRep. So how to do that without money? So we are really good to hiring budgets. For instance, putting other people to work for us basically for free. Obviously, if we have money, probably we hire people. As we have no money, we discover that it's not necessary. The only point is to collaborate, because if you collaborate with others and the other works with you, usually you reach some kind of common deliverables. This is the idea to work. Obviously, for this year, we will ask for an extra budget, because we will ask in something that is not standard, that has been commented by Emil Bartolé, how to use data in the meta model to link with the original templates, also to automatize the validation in an XML derivative language, with the idea that the reporting institution use exactly the same validation rules that in the supervisor, that is basically based in a superset of X query related with XML. Prepare it in a specific way. So the topic of rendering, the topic of validation with formulas based in SQuery, and the topic how to present all of this in an harmonized way to the users, because imagine that one supervisor in Finland is dealing with other supervisor in Spain about a bank in Germany. And they discover a error. How to express the error? Maybe not easy. So we try to prepare a error handling system that obviously is a front runner exercise, and we will ask some limited money, as we are very modest to do that, because if we ask for a lot of money, probably we don't receive that.
Okay. Going further with the FinNet timelines for 2011 and 2012. As already mentioned, there will be an update on the FinNet tables, and so also the according update of the data constructor. We have to create the streamlined FinNet taxonomy, so with a new XBRL architecture for mid of February. It's already announced, because we have a user in Europe, and so it needs to be done very early. We need to define a link between the IFRS version number 9, so 2009 version I think, and we have to create a formula link base. I think unless you have some additions to IFRS 2009.
Well, the IFRS 2009 is the fair value, and the fair value is in discussion in the ISB, and while this discussion is taking place, all the accountants in the world worldwide are waiting for final decision, because apparently I am not an accountant, but I imagine the fair value have some importance in regulation. So in order to finalize the regulator frameworks, this definition, international definition of fair value is extremely important, as far as I understand. But in any case, the good news is, from an IT point of view, that basically by mid-February we will release, hopefully, the new FinRed taxonomy according to the new model. You have in this moment the statistics taxonomy published in Eurofile.info website, but this is European, but oriented to the central bank that has contributed with that taxonomy. So it's not it's mainly supported by this central bank. But in mid-February, my suggestion to all the European providers, or better, to all the providers for XBRL software, is to test the FinRed taxonomy. We try to provide with the complete package, with formulas, with rendering, at least with some formulas for testing, with rendering, in order to deal with this kind of taxonomies. The question is, after, when we started in 2004 or 2005, we think that the topic of use tables, that we call dimensions, is useful. But we learned during these years how to use tables or dimensions in a proper way. So our learning in all these years, in collaboration with other experts, has been, will be produced the FinRed taxonomy. We need software, commercial software, for this taxonomy, because we are supervisors, not software companies. So we need to be linked, close linked, with software companies in order to have a feedback, the market feedback. What is the FinRed taxonomy? That's okay, it's not okay, there are problems, there are no problems, proof of concept implementations, demos, and all of that may be extremely useful, because if we have simply no money to pay for that. So we are clearly invited to test our taxonomy for free.
Okay, next slide. So the syllabus, some are already mentioned. So there are several topics that are written with the new architecture. Ignacio explained already the user-friendly error messages. It's to be will be evaluated, and maybe also there might be also a proof of concept tool to include these error messages in our frameworks. There should be a rendering solution to make the link between the formulas and the table-based presentation of the frameworks, not also for the rendering, but also for the error messages. And here we want to find agreements still on the streamlined reporting, first also again to the best practices. And we want to prepare a recommendation on how to deal with data reports. This is one topic raised in the last meeting yesterday, and how to deal with extensions on the new taxonomies, because it's very hard to maintain them in a manual way. And we have a request for a new budget for the task upcoming in the next years.
So, days for first half of 2011. The first point is the Taxonomy Annual Convention of IFRS. I think it's the first edition. This is London in March 29, 2011. The other important, really important date is the 22nd XBRL International Conference in Brussels from May 17, 19. And we are in the middle. What is the meaning that we are in the middle? Because our tradition is to have a workshop each 6 months. Well, until now we say this is the 14th European Banking Supervisors XBRL workshop. I think that after the workshop we could say more properly Eurofiling workshop, with the idea to work together, as has been an example this morning, with the colleagues of other regulators, and maybe for the next year we can invite also a presentation for our very important European project, that is the business register, that is more or less mature. So we have basically the idea, as we are in a crisis, I don't know in Germany exactly, but in Spain by sure, the idea is to save money traveling. And basically the idea is to link our workshop to one of the two important conventions. One may be the IFRS taxonomy, that is in March, 29th of March. Then in such a case, we will be in London in March 30 and 31st because it's easy to attend the convention of IFRS and our convention. Other option is to link with the 22 XBRL International Conference the Friday 20 of May in Brussels. So there are some points here. First point is this workshop, as usually, is for free. We don't ask for any kind of registration fee, because if we ask for registration fee, we need to build an administrative support to ask for the money, and it's, in tour it's expensive, and we prefer to maintain our low profile, or low financial profile. So this will be for free. The other two obviously will be not for free, but this is the situation. And very likely we will, if you have no other comments, because this is the last slide, very likely we will organize that in London, March 30 and 31st, not only to be linked with the IFRS, is also because the European Banking Authority has suggested us to go to London for first time, where the European Banking Authority headquarters are, and to be in London in March 30 or 31st. The other option is to go to Brussels on that Friday, but obviously there are other ones, as we made in Rome the past year, but the problem is this is a Friday. And a lot of people is not extremely happy thinking in spend all the week, in even the Friday, at home, and prefer not to have meetings on Friday. In any case, this is open for comments because the workshop is oriented for the audience. In addition to the workshop, we have from time to time internal face-to-face meetings. But this is oriented for the audience, and obviously this is basically as your preference. in the second half of the year, we will likely to have another workshop, but this will be in the second half. So for the coming months, this is the most important dates. That, for instance, the topic of IFRS Taxonomy Annual Convention, I will suggest to attend and to explain to the colleagues of the IFRS Foundation exactly what are the topics to be improved in the IFRS Taxonomy. In fact, I remember that the first edition of the IFRS Taxonomy was developed basically at the same time that us in the Bank of Spain in 2004-2005, because they need support and they lack of money. So we learned how to develop taxonomies with a lot of support, but with not too much money. Basically, this is the report of Catherine and mine, and we are open for questions, suggestions, or whatever you want. Is everything clear?
So we can decide?
So, exercise. This is Europe is a democratic region. How many people, please have your hands, prefer London March 31st? Okay. How many people prefer Brussels May 20? It's quite evident. So the workshop has decided. So I may confirm. No, let's say a decision-making process, transparent decision-making process. So finally, the next workshop will be in London, March 31st. And all of you are invited. In this workshop, all the people that registered or was in the waiting list has been accepted. I recommend to you, because the number of places for the next year is only 16, think about early registration, because at the end, I don't know what will happen. And basically, this is the end of the workshop, and now there are the closing words for the Chief Information Officer of the CCCF Luxembourg. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the management of the CSSF and myself, first I'm very glad to see you all so numerous here in Luxembourg for this conference. And for the closing words, I would just like to tell you some issues or some view we have on the CSSF side from the importance of the XBRL. You have to understand that even Luxembourg is able to host such a conference. This means that even a small country can participate. So XBRL is not only a matter of size of the country. I think it's important for us to show that Luxembourg is involved, of course, in the financial sector a lot. But as a small country, it's important also to participate and to try to make the things move in the right way. Just for information, in Luxembourg, we are in the CSSF, and of course with financial institution, we're in production since the 1st January 2008. So almost 2 years or past, and it's working very well. I must admit that for XBRL, it's not really strategic for us at CSSF today, but you can be sure that as regulators, we are really committed to XBRL, because this is also the future for our business, for the standardization. So in this sense, we will always support reach the goals for the European joint group efforts. So we will always support this because it's the basic of our work. In the conference, I read that you are also discussing about the open source issue, and of course, because XBRL is costly, we see also internally when we have to have the right tools to deal with this format, which is more and more complex. And I think that open source efforts really is one of the, let's say, one of the possibility to make the XBRL to be more accepted, because then the cost will be transferred to the expertise and not more really to the tool. So I think that this is a point which must be improved, at least to find solution to help this in this way. As you know, the European format will be more and more important. The European agency are still in movement. They will come. They have the lead on the format. So I think that the work done here today is, as far as it's improved, will help this agency to make a standard which is acceptable by us, by the market, by everybody, and not think something only by the European Commission agency. A lot of issues are still forthcoming with Finred Corep. We had a discussion this morning with our management where we were talking about the future development we have in the ITS. Of transmission of information needs a format which is the most suitable, and XBRL is one of the possibilities. So I think that we will also be pushed by the European Commission and by the Ministry of Finance directly through the crisis management we have and the need to make more and more statistics, to collect more and more information, and to be more precise in the result we have to avoid any other crisis, that XBRL is one of the answers in terms of improvement. Why? Because we have the issues of the formula included, we have the issues of the tools able to do this work, and to help with the XBRL format and within the tools related to this format to solve a lot of problems that today needs a lot of programming outside, which is not standard, and of course need a lot of work. So, if I might conclude on this point, I think that the need of tools, at least the less expensive as possible, built with the XBRL improvement with formula and a lot of possibilities, can help everybody, and you know, of course, to avoid other development and other things, to be more proactive in the supervision as you are doing, and to be more efficient also in the transmission of information, not only between financial institution regulators, but also between financial institutions themselves. You have to ensure that Luxembourg will help for the contribution to find solutions to these issues. We are committed to this. We are part of this because we have also to use it. And well, for this closing, I just want to wish you a very good return. They announced a little bit snow today. This is the Luxembourg weather. As you know, 6 months winter and 6 months bad weather. But still, I think that this week was not too bad, and these 2 days were not too bad in terms of weather, and that you will have a good return to your home country and to your home family. Thank you very much.